Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I have my very good friend, colleague, Michael Pendleton, who was a citizens judge in the cases who convicted Joe Biden for bribery from communist China, Ukraine, and Russia, as well as negligent homicide in Afghanistan. In addition, Anthony Fauci. I thought he would be an excellent person to have. He's a lawyer, very knowledgeable, extremely intelligent. And as you may know, in the last few weeks, we have encountered the situation where President Trump was attempted to be assassinated. There is no explanation for it, no motive. This is nothing new. We never had a motive with regard to John F. Kennedy that was revealed. In fact, today, we still don't know who the killer was, because if you go to the Dallas School Book Depository on the outside, there's a plaque that says alleged assassin of John F. Kennedy, Lee Harvey Oswald. Fast forward, the same thing occurred with regard to Bobby Kennedy. That's Robert F. Kennedy, who was killed by Sirhan Sirhan, allegedly by the FBI, tried, convicted, and indicted. And even Robert F. Kennedy's son, Bobby Kennedy Jr., who's running for president, doesn't believe it was Sirhan Sirhan. Fast forward, let's go to the assassination of Martin Luther King. We don't know what the motive was, or even if James Earl Ray did it to this very day, covered up by the FBI. Then let's go forward again. Ronald Reagan, the attempted assassination of our great president. Are we to believe that some kid that had a crush on Jodie Foster, that was the motive? We don't know what was behind that. It's been covered up. Now let's go to the Olympic bombing. Richard Jewell, they pinned it on him. He didn't do it. The FBI still has no suspect after all these years, and no motive. Go forward again to the anthrax attacks. They pinned it on two people. One of them got so emotionally distraught, he wound up killing himself. Neither of them were guilty. And in fact, the anthrax came from our laboratory in Fort Detrick, Maryland, the same laboratory that sent the seeds of COVID-19 to the communist Chinese lab in Wuhan, China, which turned it into a bioweapon with a $2.8 million grant that was given to them by the Obama Biden-Harris regime, as well as Anthony Fauci, who was working with them. And now, of course, we have Donald Trump. We don't know anything coming from the FBI. The director shows up, Christopher Wray, says, oh, it may have been a piece of shrapnel, trying to downgrade the importance of it. No motive. Are we to believe that a young kid, a punk kid, 20 years old, obviously a leftist, came up with this on his own, was able to escape protection by the Secret Service? It was known 2 weeks before the assassination attempt that the Iranians had sent a hit squad to the United States to kill President Trump in terms of revenge for his having ordered the assassination of this guy Soleimani of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the leader of it. So this is where we are. And we, the American people, are not getting the truth. We never get the truth from our government. It's kind of like what you say about most lawyers, with the exception of Mike and hopefully me, is that if their mouth is moving, they're lying. And it's no mistake that most of these people in government are lawyers. But we at Freedom Watch, and I firmly believe, and we'll get Mike's opinion on this in a second, I don't think that this was just a simple accident. I don't think it was just negligence. I believe that the Biden-Harris regime that was behind in the polling, badly behind, either created the condition, paved the way for someone to kill Trump, or that it's an inside job inside of this administration. And we are forming a Trump assassination task force. We've already formed it to get to the bottom of it. And we will hold them, whoever is responsible, accountable, and we will bring them in front of a citizens' grand jury. And like we did with Biden and his son Hunter and James, try them. We will then seek a conviction and sentence them. But we have to do it. You know, I want to be, and anybody else who wants to join us, please go to freedomwatchusa.org. I want to be the modern day Jim Garrison, who investigated the death of John F. Kennedy. And he determined, in fact, there was a movie about this, JFK by Oliver Stone, with Kevin Costner as the main actor, Jim Garrison. He determined that Lee Harvey Oswald was a scapegoat for the CIA, that the CIA was behind it because they believed that Kennedy was soft on communism with what happened at the Bay of Pigs. which failed when they tried to invade Cuba, and also the Cuban Missile Crisis, when Kennedy cut a deal, an under-the-table deal to pull our missiles out of Turkey, and also agree never to ever challenge Castro in Cuba. So this is what we're doing, and we really need to do it because we will never get the truth from the government, if you want to use the government loosely as a term. Mike, I want to get your thoughts on this because I firmly believe, having communicated with many of our supporters at Freedom Watch and people generally, that they don't believe that this was just some random event that didn't benefit the Biden-Harris regime.
Well, there's no question it benefited them. You could see that Harris is supposedly even in the polls, which is amazing. She was polling less than 30% for most of her vice presidency, and suddenly she's at par with Trump. It struck me when you said the communists that they were concerned that Kennedy was soft on communists. Wouldn't it be nice if that was the case today? If that was the case, Biden would have been targeted. He's as soft as anybody I've ever seen on communists, and in fact is one. So how far we've come and how much things have changed just strikes me. As far as Trump goes, it's either grossly negligent or intentional, and either way, it's unacceptable for sure. But really, it's all of these coincidences lined up lead to almost the inevitable conclusion that is intentional. The only thing that holds me back a little bit, Larry, is the fact that this kid is such a punk. He missed. I mean, they could have gotten someone who could at least shoot, and that they would have done the job. Why they would choose this kid is the only thing that holds me back a little bit. It's back there in the back of my head saying, wait a minute, hold on. Because this kid was a punk. I mean, I wouldn't have him walk my dog. And yet there he is being tasked with killing, the former president of the United States. That's the only reason I hesitate at all.
Well,
Otherwise,
let's take this as a hypothetical. I don't believe this was the first time that the Secret Service and people in and around the Secret Service, law enforcement, didn't provide adequate security. This is the first time someone took a crack at Trump.
Yeah.
So I believe that this goes back very far to any event and rally that Trump was doing, and that they would figure that someone would come forward and try to kill him at some point. That's number one. But number two, given the fact that we can't get any of the truth out of the FBI almost 2 weeks after this event, that it's being withheld, clearly the FBI knows, just like they know that Stephen Paddock, the guy who committed the massacre in Las Vegas in front of the Mandalay Bay, immediately after that happened, the FBI went into his apartment in Mesquite, Nevada, and seized everything that was in that apartment. He was probably a rogue government agent that went off the reservation, so to speak, or maybe he didn't go off the reservation. And so I'm not so sure that this was an event that eventually would not have happened, even if there is a punk kid that wasn't the best shot in town. And it is quite remarkable that he missed, because by the grace of God, Trump turned his head and it just grazed him. But, this shot that he took was as easy as a shot that was allegedly taken from the Dallas School Book Depository. I've been there. I've looked at it. I don't know if you've ever been there. No. It was an easy head-on shot.
Yeah.
Yet Kennedy was not shot head-on. Okay, he was shot as he was moving down Main Street or whatever it was under a bridge. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why we've never really gotten the real story here. There was probably more than one shooter that was involved, but it is a tragedy, not just with regard to President Trump potentially, but it's a tragedy for the country because it confirms to the American people that we have a corrupt system of justice. We have a corrupt FBI that spends more of its time hunting down peaceful J6 protesters and having them indicted and put in prison than actually protecting a former president of the United States, or for that matter, guarding us against terrorism, which is probably on the horizon in this country, thanks to what's been going on at the border. Now, you made a mention, and I want to get your thoughts on this too, about Kamala Harris, is that, yeah, she's leading in the polls. And I think that as of today, given the fact that most Americans keep themselves uneducated, apathetic, the woman, even though she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, to put it mildly, in the last 3.5 years, learned how to speak. Okay, she must have been taking speech lessons or whatever.
Well, when you compare her to Biden, she's
Yeah,
brilliant.
and she has good hand movement. It's like a prosecutor. Yes, like somebody tries cases. She has a nice smile. She's relatively attractive. And the American people wanted something new, okay? And they don't know what they're dealing with yet. But I would say, as of today, she's the odds-on favorite to win the presidency. And it's scary. It is really scary. And I don't tell people who to vote for as the head of a nonprofit. People can figure it out. And you can elaborate on her positions, Mike, because I'm not sure that it's going to make much of a difference. And it's going to be really hard for President Trump in a debate or any place else to attack a black woman, much less a woman generally. And she doesn't have the cold, evil, witch demeanor of Hillary Clinton, which comes through on its own. She comes off through very, very warm and friendly, but she is a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's a fraud. And for the American people to discern that, I've been predicting that, Gavin Newsom would step forward, but this one is actually a more powerful opponent because she's simply a Trojan horse for the left. Yeah. That's what she is. She's the Trojan horse. Your thoughts?
Well, I think was voted the most radically left member of the Senate. So there's no question she's a radical lefty. She's a socialist or Marxist or communist, however you want to categorize her. She was terrible for the country, but she's been polling at such negative numbers because she was viewed as a lightweight, which she is. So, but the only way that she could win at this point is to have her pop in with only 5 months to go and very little vetting taking place. She can have a few speeches, maybe even stumble through a debate with Trump, which will be highly orchestrated in her favor. She is the odds-on favorite, and unfortunately, the American people are going to be bamboozled again. It was bad enough that Joe was able to do it from his basement, but now she's going to be able to do it with virtually no vetting. We're not going to get all of her positions as clear as they should be, or as a presidential candidate that goes through the process of being nominated and et cetera. The last year and a half that Joe's been through, that doesn't exist. So she might just be able to slide in there. And look, I love Trump. I do love him, I have to tell you. But he sometimes shoots himself in the foot with some of the comments that he should know by now are going to be twisted by the left-wing media. And all the headlines say is Trump says she's not black. Trump says she's not a woman. Trump says she's, and so I just think if he was a little more careful, he could beat this back. But I don't see it happening.
It's like when he asked Vladimir Putin to get the 33,000 emails of Hillary that have been hidden. I mean, it was a joke. We know it was a joke, but that was the trigger for the Russian collusion investigation in many ways.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. He's his own worst enemy in that regard. And it's going to be really hard to take her on a debate because every time that he does, she's going to be accused to being anti-woman. He will be accused, and a racist, and she will stand up to him. There's no question she has a public persona which appears tough, but she's not. She let all the criminals out in California when she was attorney general and also a DA. So this is the problem that we face. Now, we had Freedom Watchers have filed a couple lawsuits in the last few weeks as well. You probably have seen them. You get our stuff. Is that as a Florida voter, I filed a case under the Florida voting laws for fraud. In 2020, she participated in the fraud with Jill Biden, and the personal White House physician of Joe Biden, Kevin O'Connor, to give the impression to the American people, to defraud them, that Biden was mentally and physically capable of being president. So I have asked the court, and it's a long shot, but we'll give it a shot. That's what we are, to bar her from the presidential ballot as a result of the fraud. this year, but that's only Florida, okay? But that will set a precedent nationwide. I also filed a case for Sheriff Joe Arpaio in the last few weeks because he was defamed by Bill Clinton, not Freudian slip. He was defamed by Joe Biden for being a convicted felon, which he's not, of course. But, you know, all stuff is flying around right now. And the left is so pleased, particularly the cable networks, that they have someone now that presents a so-called fresh face that can articulate, at least off a teleprompter, that is warm and friendly in many ways. And she has practiced that. There's no question. She is like the devil. Okay, she's in disguise right now. So she needs to be unmasked, and the American people need to have the full truth. And that's what Freedom Watch tries to do. We don't tell people who to vote for, but we want people to know the full truth. Let's flip to another subject, and that's the economy. Late this week, the stock market crashed, okay, essentially. Lost about over 1,000 points in 2 days. They say because there's going to be a downturn in the economy. Okay, that's what it's talking about. It looks like we might have a recession or a slight recession. But I also believe that the stock market is pretty smart. And with the prospect of Kamala Harris winning, I think that was a contributing factor to the crash of the stock market. And I wouldn't put a dime in the stock market right now, God forbid. That's the weapon until you see what's going on, even though it broke 40,000, recently. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think she's a disaster for the economy. I do think they had kind of put Trump in as president. So now that there's this chance that he might not win, the market's reacting to that. There aren't going to be a lot of people say that. There'll be a few. The smart ones will be honest and say that she is a disaster for the economy in a multitude of ways. And so I do think the market is very smart in that way. I think they are factoring in a potential. They say she's about even right now, but a potential that she's going to win the presidency. And yeah, I don't see the market's not stupid. And then there's a lot of smart guys in the market. So I think
Yeah, and the momentum is in her favor. There are
reaction.
polls that actually have her ahead by 5 or 6 points right now, whatever that is. And the fact that she and the Democrats were able to raise $300 million in 1 week is $300 million in small contributions from people largely who have never contributed before. That tells you the potential, because they're not voting for her. They're voting, regrettably, because they're tired of President Trump and they want something fresh, but they don't know what they're voting for, essentially.
That's right.
And then you've got J.D. Vance, who's no help either, frankly. Why Trump chose him, no one can figure out right now, notwithstanding the fact that he made a statement that was taken out of context with regard to cat people, cat ladies or whatever, is the fact that he'd called Trump Hitler. I mean, why would you choose someone like that? I think Trump, he's a stubborn person. He's not going to do it, I know. I think he needs to change the vice presidential pick. Maybe someone like Tulsi Gabbard. He needs a woman in there right now, essentially. And I don't dislike J.D. Vance, okay? I think, he's got a lot of positive features. He hasn't learned to speak on the stump yet very well. He's kind of off the cuff. His hand movements are kind of strange, okay? He's not a good speaker, but I think Trump needs to make a change. What do you think?
Well, I think that's probably a good idea, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No,
I think he's going to roll with what he has. Trump will have to pull this out. This will be Trump will have to decide how bad he wants to be president. If he wants to be president, he's going to have to tone down some of this, she's not black. And this is a nasty question. That sells it. I like it personally. I think it's funny. And I it's entertaining because he takes them on. But I don't think it does him much good with women and independence. I think they look at that and they cringe that he's treating a black woman the way he did with the other day at the interview that she was trying to get him interview.
Journalist Association.
Yeah, black journalists.
And he was justified in that too, but it just doesn't come across.
He's right. No, I agree with him 100%. Unfortunately, it doesn't play well. It doesn't play. It puts him in a kind of a negative position, as right as he is, and how he's taken them on. Now, maybe with black men, they probably like it. I think there's a certain percentage of black men that are standing up and saying, "Man, that guy's, he's tough." And there's a toughness part of it. So he has to
You're right,
decide
man.
where is he gonna hang his hat, and can he hold his tongue just a little bit? As much as I like I said, I love him, and I think he's entertaining, but I do think he offends a lot of people. And the tweets and all of the True Social and all the good stuff, again, as a rock solid conservative, I like it. But there's a lot of people who don't, and a lot of people who are offended by it. And ultimately, what we're looking for, and we're not looking for 51%. A lot of people think, oh, it's the no, the electoral college. All we need is 51% of the electoral college.
Well,
And
here's my prediction too.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
is
right.
that there? Is
You know,
that there? That's the
Trump, Trump,
question.
Trump has already got the white guys. Okay, there's not many more you can mine. Okay,
Yeah,
you got to worry about the independents and the women and
yeah.
black women. Okay, and white women and the gays, lesbians, and transgenders, and God knows what else. And now Kamala's thinking of picking Pete Buttigieg because she wants to lock up the
Oh, I
LGBT
think that'd be good. Oh, that'd be good. That would be good. I think that would turn off a lot of even I would say white females, maybe black females.
Oh, turn off blacks for sure. They don't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a picture of him going way back. You remember with he's in bed with his surrogate wife with two kids, as if his male wife had just given birth. I mean, it's the guy is
Yeah.
he's mentally ill. I mean, it's
Yeah.
and he looks like a kid. He only looks like he's 10 years old.
Right.
And he's done a lousy job as transportation secretary.
Right.
But they're going to
So
go.
I hope he's the one, but I wouldn't I don't think so.
I think who
I
they're
don't
going to
know.
go with, and because she's got a problem with the Jewish community, given Biden's position on Israel and how they've undercut Israel in particular, and she's going to do it even more. We saw that with Netanyahu. I think
Yeah.
they're going to go with Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, because that's an important state. And but the irony there is that there's a lot of anti-Semitism out there still, and I'm not sure the American people are going to take to a Jewish vice president. I'm a Jewish Christian myself. I'm a Christian, but my heritage is Jewish, so I'm proud of that. But that would be the odds-on favorites if Pennsylvania goes to her. Game over, basically, with electoral votes on that. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. And I mean, this is the twist of fate. There's likely to be more twists of fate before November 5th, potentially. I mean, a world war is on the horizon, potentially. And Biden did little to nothing to stop it at this point in time. And he's not willing to defend Israel by being offensive. He's only going to be defensive. Large Jewish donors, even if many of them are leftists, have refused to give him any money over his policies on Israel. And that would apply to Harris as well, who's a borderline anti-Semite, although she married some nebbish Jewish guy who gives her cover in that regard. And what a loser that guy is. He shines her shoes. That's what he does. And he doesn't do anything, basically. I think he cooks. But in any event, this is what we're dealing with. Let's flip over to the Olympics now, because that's another outrage. Is the two boxers who can't pass a gender identity test beat the crap out of two female boxers, actual females, and the IOC and the Olympic Committee thinks that's fine. And I take offense as well, because they excluded, I'm a big fan of Liv, and I represent a professional golfer that plays on Liv. By the way, my comments are my own. They shouldn't be attributed to my client. But Liv, any of their golfers, they're excellent golfers. They have great golfers, whether it's Brooks Koepka, whether it's Bryson DeChambeau, whether it's you've got Sergio Garcia, you've got a host of others, Patrick Reed. They've been excluded from playing on the American team. Yet, because of the anti-competitive conduct of the PGA Tour and its use of phony world ranking points of a group called OWGR, Official Golf World Ranking. Yet, LIV players can play on foreign teams, okay, but Americans have excluded them. So, I mean, this Olympics, sure, it's in a beautiful place, Paris. God forbid, I wouldn't have gone there with anyone that I cared about, because frankly, I still think there's a great risk of terrorism in Paris. It's a big target. There was many years ago, when the Israeli team was assassinated there. But the Olympics have become a joke. I mean, it's a bad joke. Get your thoughts on that. That's my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I had already decided before the men beating up women and the introductory ceremony, which was, they can say whatever they want, but it was a charade intended to mock Christians. And then ultimately, I had already decided, though, when the American soccer team turned their back on the flag, this was the last Olympics. That was it for me. From my perspective, I don't ever want to watch it again. But this just confirmed that I was right. I'm not going to watch it for any reason. Now, I have to be honest. I have watched a little bit of the golf because I love golf. Yeah, but just on the Golf Channel. I'm not watching it on, even though that's owned by NBC. I justify myself. Yeah, right. I'm not, well, we are going there, Larry. But
All right.
yeah, so I have watched a little golf because there's golfers that are there. I like them a lot. I like Scheffler. I like a lot of the golfers. So I have snuck in a few minutes of golf on the Golf Channel. But other than that, I refuse to watch it. I don't want to watch any of it, because when Americans turn their back on the flag in a foreign country, to me, that's bordering on treason. To me, I don't ever want to watch the Olympics again. I don't care what the Americans do. In fact, after that scene with the women's soccer team, I was cheering for the other team. I didn't care who they were playing. I was cheering for the other team. So I'm not impressed.
The
I think
Olympics was designed to be an individual competition. It became this national competition between countries. But the original Olympics was to be just individuals, essentially. I mean, yes, countries would send them, but there wasn't this rivalry between countries. And, with the golf, that's interesting too. And I like the players that have lived that are playing on the foreign teams. Okay, I like John Rahm.
yeah.
I like several of the others that are doing that as well. But the fact is these guys aren't even foreign anymore. They've become American.
Right,
So if they win, we can claim credit, okay? Because John Rahm lives in, he went to the University of Arizona. He's got American kids. He pays American taxes. He lives here. Same thing for even Rory McIlroy, who lives in South Florida. Okay, I mean, the guy's effectively an American, so that's a joke as well in many ways.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I made my little exception that I had to tell on myself watching a little of the golf, but the rest of it, I'm just not interested. I think it's become hyper political, and the opening ceremony was enough. Just hearing about it, reading about it was enough for me to know that
It was a freak show. I mean, that's what it was.
yeah,
It was in your face.
yeah,
Now, granted, the French should know better. I love the French. I mean, I'm a Francophile. I speak French, and I studied there, etc. And I had clients there. But the French characteristically were the world's leaders in drag shows. There's no question about it. But to keep it on the Champs-Élysées or wherever, in Place Pigalle, don't put it into the Olympics where the entire world has to see a freak show, basically. If you want to pay money to go see one, okay. Don't bring your kids. But,
yeah,
and don't
yeah.
turn it into a
No,
religious enterprise by pretending it's the Last Supper. That's
right.
went way too far.
No, and it's unnecessary. See, that's the point too, is it kind of indicates a bit of insanity on the part of the people that did it. It's not smart at all. I mean, it's just offensive. And so I wasn't going to watch it anyway, so it wasn't offending me, but it certainly offended a lot of other people, not just me.
Well, I don't know if the Pope made any comment about it. He should have. I think he
Yeah.
did. But hey, if you really want to watch a drag show, just follow the secretaries of the various cabinets in the Biden administration.
right.
There are actually some that have been in drag. I'm not kidding. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, the one fellow who was stealing suitcases at the airport. I don't remember. He was in the Biden
you
administration.
don't have to go to the Olympics to see it. You can just look at the Biden regime. Okay, so I mean that's what this country is turning into. I mean it's turning into a freak show. I mean that's what it is. And I personally believe that everybody deserves rights. They should be able to live their life as they want. Just leave me alone. Leave children alone. Don't
Right.
push it in someone's face. Don't politicize it. Don't make it, a crusade, essentially. And that's where
Right.
we are today. And that's going to happen if Harris, Kamala Biden, I almost called her, becomes president of the United States. All this stuff is going to proliferate even more. Kids are going to be pushed into sex change operations without advising their parents more and more. They're going to be sorry about it, later in life, obviously, because you can't reverse it in 99.9% of the situations. And, media is going to go even crazier because they know the government's not going to enforce, what's being taught to kids and cartoon shows and everything else. And it's a scary proposition. But anyway, that's where we are. I mean, we're at a turning
Yeah.
point in this country. If Kamala Harris becomes president, and Trump is absolutely right, the country's over. So we can't even
Our
survive 4 years with that.
yeah, our only hope is that we hold one of the houses, either the House or the Senate, and just have gridlock. I mean, that's our only hope. If Kamala, whatever she wants to call herself, wins, yeah, we can only hope for gridlock because she will. And of course, we've seen that Biden has done a lot through executive orders and various things. So our only hope is that we hold on to one of the houses.
Well, as of today, Mike, if things don't change, I don't think that's going to happen. Okay, I don't. For the
I don't
same
either.
reason that the Democrats were worried about the down ballot with Biden, is that this first 2 weeks of Kamala Harris and Trump's poor start, to be blunt,
Yeah.
uh, creates a momentum here, and it's scary. But hey, we're fighting. We don't give up. I'm not going to leave the country. Maybe some people will. We'll go down peacefully and legally fighting with our citizens' grand juries. And I think one of the ways to open the can here is to determine, and I believe that we will at Freedom Watch, that either through nonfeasance or malfeasance, that the Biden-Harris regime was responsible for an attempt to kill President Trump. And I don't think it was just isolated to that one event in Butler, Pennsylvania. I think the Secret Service and security forces around Trump, including the intelligence agencies, figured it was going to happen at some point in the
Yeah.
future. And this was the first manifestation of it. I hope it's the last, but I'm not so sure it's the last. And it's not just President Trump, because today it's him and the sad person that was killed there, as well as the wounded. But tomorrow it's us. It's you and your loved ones that are in the crosshairs. And it's a frightening experience. Well, we're going to live through, and I'll get your thoughts on this. Did you ever read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Read it and saw the 3 movies.
We're
Great.
almost there yet, okay? But, that was dumbing down the country where there was no individual initiative, total government control on every aspect of your life. It also was a lot like George Orwell's 1984, that's what we will be living in Atlas Shrugged. And one person said to me recently, I won't say who it was, said, I'm voting for Kamala Harris. This is a conservative because I think the country needs to be taken down to ground zero to build it back up. That was the thesis of Atlas Shrugged. I didn't agree with that. Okay. I don't agree with that.
Yeah. No,
But
I don't either. I don't either. But there is something to be said for hitting bottom, hitting rock bottom with a lot of these things. And let's hope we don't have to go there, Larry, because what happens too is that things get ugly. If you remember, there was a lot of people died. People were getting killed in Atlas Shrugged, and there was, turmoil, chaos in the third movie, the third book. And so I don't think that's what we want. There was bloodshed, and That's certainly not what I want, and I know it's not what you want. So we'll have to keep plugging away and hope that we can have some effect on this next election, because it's extremely important, no doubt.
Well, you are very important, Mike. You're my very good friend and colleague. We work together at Judicial Watch. We go way back.
Yeah.
And, we will be pursuing citizens' grand juries, citizens' trials. We, the American people, need to mete out justice ourselves. The late, great Justice Antonin Scalia, who you knew and I knew,
Yeah.
ruled in the case United States versus Williams that the grand jury belongs to the American people, not to three branches of government. So this corrupt Justice Department of Biden-Harris can go do what they're doing. I oppose them in every respect, even including in court, and I'm representing, interests involved in January 6th. But we, the American people, have a parallel right to mete out justice ourselves. And hopefully we'll find courageous law enforcement people that will carry out the sentences that you handed down with a very reasoned opinion. You can see that at freedomwatchusa.org. And we can move on to holding others accountable as well. But I hope people will go to freedomwatchusa.org and contribute to our cause with tax-deductible contributions. We need more lawyers, more paralegals. We need to pay for more office space. We need to ramp up. We are your real Justice Department, not the Gestapo of a Biden-Harris Justice Department that is persecuting the American people. And if you need any proof of what that's all about, just Google the recent appearance of FBI Director Christopher Wray in front of Congress, where he won't answer questions, but in fact tries to deflect about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. This guy's a chameleon. Whoever's in power, he will do their bidding. He has no principles. And in my view, he's a threat, as well as the Attorney General Merrick Garland, who is a leftist. That's the way it is. And I hope the FBI agents, because there are good FBI agents, I've represented some of them, so did you. I hope that, frankly, they quit the FBI and move on, because I would not want to be part of that organization.
Thank God for the whistleblowers that are, thank God for them, because so much of it has come out because of them. And so we'll just keep plugging away, Larry.
We will. Thank you, Mike, for everything you do. And we'll be in touch, obviously. You're my good friend and colleague. And everybody, stay safe. I want to thank everybody for supporting Freedom Watch over these years. We do at Freedom Watch what I used to do at Judicial Watch, hard-hitting cases, citizens' grand juries. We do more than just mostly get documents, although we do that as well. And we are filing a number of Freedom of Information Act requests to try to get to the bottom of what happened. Those will be stonewalled for sure. And that's why we have to go with the citizens' grand jury route and cry it out ourselves. And hopefully whistleblowers will come forward to us. So please contact me at freedomwatchusa.org, as well as contribute with tax-deductible contributions, or you can email me at leclayman@gmail.com, leclayman@gmail.com, KLAYMAN, if you have any information about this attempted assassination and what went on inside of the Biden-Harris regime to pave the way for that to happen. God bless you, and thank you for listening. Remember, the Father and Son will only help us if we help ourselves. Thank you for listening to us. We'll be back next week.